The Digimon card game is my favorite TCG. Whether it's running a deck of your favorite character, playing the best deck in the room to try and win, or just simply throwing some bulk together to have fun, there is something here for everybody. I myself somewhat competitively play, and after I qualified for nationals at a store regional, I figured I'd take the rest of the year to do a little challenge. I'll be starting out with 2 copies of the Fabled Waltz structure deck, and each week give myself $25 to spend on sealed product to hopefully make my deck better. No purchasing singles, no trading cards with friends, just me and hopefully some good cards that I need. Let's see just how far this deck can take me. Welcome to Sealed Only Digimon.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the penultimate episode of Digimon Sealed Only. Last time we were playing in a regulation battle in which I had fortunately won. I got first place, and that was pretty swell. I didn't get anything particularly crazy for winning. I ended up giving my card for winning first place to who was in second place because he has a Lord Knight deck. But you know, a second win on the series of like 14 episodes, I can't complain too much about with the deck I built only from sealed. With that being said, in front of me today, I have 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 packs. And you might be wondering, why 13 this week? Turns out I only opened 11 last week. So we're going to make up that last pack today in what is going to be our last pack opening for the series. So without further delay, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Also, as a heads up, I do have a slightly different recording setup because I figured out how to have my phone work as a webcam. So I'm able to record everything all as one thing, and this is just a better recording setup for me. So we have Soundbird, Pogu. Because my phone is in my way, and I had been using it as my ability to see what cards are in front of me because my phone is right here, of course. I have to move my OBS down so I can actually see what I'm opening. Tanemon, Palmon, Kokeshi, Devidramon, Tsuno, Gabu, Protein, Monochrome, Rare, and are you kidding me? Oh my god, this is our third Altar. Well, I guess there's no chance of us getting like an Altar Analog Youth or anything else that we might be interested in. We are instead going to open our third Altar tie-in mat of the series. That is a bummer, but you can only worry about that so much. You know, maybe someday I'll be ecstatic to have 4 of those lying around the house, but until then, you know, we're kind of just chilling. Devi, Air, Bio, Taita. Oh, another Mega Digimon. Cool. I think that makes like our 5th copy of that card, which I will not complain about too much because I love that card. Next pack. I'm really hoping for Analog Youth, of course. That is the our main search. But I would like another Metal Mamemon. I think that card is incredibly powerful, especially at the direction I think we might be ending up taking this deck for the store regional. Another Tokomon Gold. Very pretty. Very, very pretty card. Bio, Nume, Beta, X-Tyranno, Karakuru. Yeah, I think overall, I am relatively optimistic about our chances. I would today, as I'm recording this because I'm terrible, I'm recording this before I go to the card shop. And today I would like to test out version 2. I think version 2 machines is something that I would really like to try, especially with Huddy being around nearly as much as it is. I think the ability to, with Vademon, to be able to bounce things to hand is incredibly powerful. I am worried that I won't be able to... and I wasn't trying this earlier because I was only on the 1 machine, or it was like 2 machines or whatever. But now that I'm on a full playset, I'm much more confident about my ability to find a machine Dramon. So version 2 feels a lot better to me in that regard. You can stay up there, Tokomon. We'll just put you over there. Excuse me. Yeah. Nothing crazy so far. I don't think we have that many hits. I don't think we opened a color border last time, so I do think that we are owed a second colored border card, in addition to like a couple more supers. I think we opened like 4, so I think we get oh, I guess we only get maybe one more, I believe. Somebody left it in my comments what the hit rates are, and I forgot. I apologize. Unfortunately, my brain and my skull is not particularly great sometimes. So, oh hey, look, there he is, Metal Mamemon. This is the card I wanted another copy of. Perfect for version 2 as a search. Perfect for much of anything that you might need. Metal Mame is just very, very strong. So very, very, very happy to have another copy of him. I think I only had 2, so going up to 3 might be a thing that I'd consider. But I won't know for sure until after this recording when I start looking at my looking at my deck list and seeing what I want to do. Yeah. It is crazy here that this is the last opening that we're going to do for this series. I would ask you guys in the comments if you would like to see one more opening before we play, but the problem is that as of recording, I am playing today for, like, you know, my normal locals, my last time playing version 2 machines, just to give it a shot. And then I play again Saturday for the store regionals. So it's not like I have a ton of time to in between my openings. I'm uploading this video that you guys are watching now the day before I play. There is a chance that after my store regional video, I go ahead and sit down and just go through. I think I have like half a box of Hacker Slumber of Cyber Eden sitting in a desk that I was going to use for this series. Hey, look, another Metal Mamemon. Well, the universe heard me, and they gave me 2 Metal Mamemons. So that's our second alt art. No more alt arts for the series. That's a little bit of a bummer, but such is life, right? Definitely not going to complain about it, though. I did ask for Metal Mames, and the box decided to deliver to me. So all signs point to one final pivot. And so we will see where that pivot takes us. And I do think that we are out of supers. Maybe one more, because I don't remember how many I opened last week, because the opening I did last week was such a blur. Hydra, Edamon. Awesome. 2 more packs to go. It is funny, I did open the secret slot last week, and I've opened 2 alt arts this week. You know, kind of poetic. That is. So, oh hey, look. Another version 2 card as gold. That is so funny. And I think it's our second copy of that guy too. So can't complain too much. Raremon and Digitamon. All right, gang. This is our last pack. Our last pack of the series. Last possible cards that we can play in our deck are going to be in here. So it does feel kind of lackluster for it to be another pack of versus monsters, but you know, it is what it is. It is kind of nostalgic, though, already, going through this set, just seeing how many cards are in here that we have played in some capacity. And just remembering the first time that we had opened it, we were going for Kaguyas, and we opened twice as many secret rare machine Dramons as we did Kaguyamons, and 2 of those machines were alt arts, so can't complain too much. Kresgarurumon, and the last card of our opening, probably ever, Titamanes. Yeah, gang. That's it. That's our opening. I'm going to take a look at pivoting over to some version 2 machines. So yeah, I shall see you guys with the new deck list once I have that done. See you shortly. And welcome to what I called the penultimate episode, but is actually going to be the finale. I'm recording this actually after the store regional at Grandmaster Games. I unfortunately could not make it to my local tournament the week leading up to it. I couldn't record. I didn't have the time between me being sick, my usual carpool being sick, and some other things going on. I couldn't make it. So as much as I would have loved to have had 2 episodes to round out the series, you're now watching the finale, which you already knew clicking into it because I've titled it as such, but you know, as I'm recording it and talking about it, it is a little bit disappointing. I really was hoping for just one more episode, but with that being said, I ended up playing version 2 Machine Dramon. The store regional itself had 29 players. We had a bunch of people decide not to come because for various reasons. I guess people just really don't want to play against Huddy. So we had, I think, either 29 or 31 players, one of the two. So we had top 2 getting their invites to Vegas later or early next year. So I decided to bring version 2 machines to round out this series. Version machines has been something that I've been having so much success with, and version 2, even though I haven't played it on the channel before, is something that I was tinkering with and something I wanted to try. Because I do think its ability to go into Huddy is a little bit more desirable. The constant returning things to hand is super strong if you can get Vademon out early. So it's what I played. So let's go ahead and take a look at my deck list, and I can talk about some of my choices. It's not going to be crazy. So first off, we have 4 Sunomon eggs. Nothing too crazy here, right? These guys are really solid if you're playing version 2. They allow you to go any version 2 trait level 4, and then whenever you tuck something off of their effect, you do get to declare Sunomon to go into either Metal Mamemon or Vademon for a reduced cost of 1. Usually Vademon you can go into for about 1, maybe free if you have some other stuff going on, like if you meet beforehand. But very, very strong egg getting you into your 5s by turn 2 is really strong. So I'll put these guys right up here. And I'm recording a little bit differently, so my movements may be a little bit more strange. There's about, I have to almost fully extend. This is me fully extending my arm, right? So with that being said, let's go and start looking at the deck list. So to start off the main deck list, I decided to go ahead and start off with 4 copies of what I think is the best rookie out of all of DM. Out of all of them, I think Biyomon, the rookie Biyomon giving a raid is so highly valuable, especially if you're able to get into a 4 or a 5 by turn 2 with a source underneath it already. You are just able to raid over any sort of searcher rookie, any sort of anything that could provide early aggression for your opponent, especially going first. This led to a lot of times that you'll see in the games where my opponents are just like, oh, I'll just play out this searcher and I'll Digivolve on the back. And I was like, I do just get to out, the searcher always. And a lot of the time I don't care what's underneath my Digimon because I would rather them die if they can. So being able to attack in, really, really strong. Very happy with how Biyomon performed this week. Next up, into the version 2 land of our rookies, we are on 4 copies of Alekmon. You're playing him simply for the fact that he has the version 2 trait. He is another training rookie, which is incredibly powerful. But, the your turn, all of your opponent's security Digimon get minus 3k is not as valuable as some of the other effects that we've seen on level 3s in the past. But you really need a high density of version 2s to combo with the Vegemon that we'll get into later. So I'm on 4 copies of him. Plus, I have the 2 blingy versions, so I gotta play it, right? Next up, for our final rookie, we are on 4 copies of Gabumon. I just went with 3 rookies, 4 apiece. I played as many as I could of each of the version 2 ones just to make sure I had a high density of them for when Vegemon plays came up. Gabumon is a searcher with an inherited effect of jamming. So searching any DM trait card, slotting a version 2 underneath to fill up our trash for Vegemon later, and giving jamming inherited are all really, really strong effects. So we were on 4 copies of that guy. And I now realize my webcam's in the way a little bit, but that should be fine. You guys, I'll even do this. I'll go whoop, bam. And then whenever I take my full deck list photo to put into the video at the end, I can, fix it later. So I'm on 4 copies of that Gabumon. And that's it for the rookies. I don't think that you need that many rookies in machines. I think that, you want a high density of the training rookies. And if anything, I would have liked to have swapped a Gabumon or 2 for another 1 or 2 training rookies of some kind. But like I said, I really just wanted to make sure I had version 2s in trash as many as I could get. So on to our level 4s. I decided to play 3 copies of Vegemon, not because I think 3 is better than 4. In fact, I would have loved to have played 4. I don't own 4. Sealed only. I realized after I opened my last half of EX9 that I only owned 3 copies of this Vegemon. A common that this one's uncommon even. So I actually got a little bit lucky opening 3 because I only opened 12 packs of the box in the series. 3 copies of this Vegemon are really strong. They allow you to Digivolve at end of turn into either Vegemon or Vademon. Vademon is always a free evolution on top of Vegi at end of turn, which is usually the one that you're going into. But in some really weird game states, you actually can decide to go into Metal Mamemon for a cost of 3, just like giving your opponent a lot of memory. But if you're able to use Vademon to out a proper stack or something, it really, really does help having that flexibility. But 9 times out of 10, Vegemon went into Vademon and nothing outside of the ordinary happened there. And Piercing Inherited comes up sometimes. So less often because you just don't get just the pure DP buffs that you would like, but when comboed with something like Andromon on a Machine Dramon stack, it does kind of pop off. Still with our level 4s, we're on 2 copies of this Andromon. This Andromon can be good if given the right circumstance. However, I never had the right circumstance for him. He does specifically mention that you have to place a Digimon card from your hand, which is the only one on the level 4s. And I had known somebody in the comments had mentioned in the past that like, oh, Andromon actually doesn't need to do that. Andromon was errata, and I looked it up and I couldn't find an errata for this Andromon anywhere. So unfortunately, I did play by what I could find on the card text, so I do have to reveal a Digimon card to place underneath him. It's not going to matter too much. I'm not really playing DM after this, but you know, Sec -1 and -3K are really strong effects if you really just need your stack in the back to survive for a turn. Like if you have a 3 and you're set up front and you just like, you're under a blanket effect that can't activate when digivolving effects or can't unsuspend, just that Sec -1 can really save your life. So we're on 2 copies of him. Don't need him super often. You know, the on deletion recover one is really good, but 9 times out of 10, Machine Dramon's getting removed not by deletion. And if he is being deleted, you know, I just get to save him. So I get to protect him. So I don't really have to worry about it all that much. Next up, we are on 3 copies of the EX9 Kabuterimon. This card's really good. This card does just say to place a card underneath to suspend one of your opponent's Digimon and they can't unsuspend. Being able to, again, you know, same philosophy as Angemon, right? Being able to stun a body and prevent them from killing you next turn is incredibly valuable. Both of these being on plays mean that you can Digivolve your 3 in the back and then just go, okay, cool, they don't have anything in the back either. You know, we can do an arms race for that, but for now I need to survive. And you can just play out a Kabuterimon to stun them, or play out Angemon, usually is the one you'd prefer to do, because if they have another way to unsuspend. So, you know, you say prefer to do, and it's like Kabuterimon does suspend something when attacking, but a lot of the time you don't care about that because you'd really rather be raiding into things if you want to delete something anyways. Overall, the inherited effects don't matter too much outside of 3 copies of EX9 Garurumon. This guy lets you strip sources, which is incredibly powerful when comboed with Metal Mamemon up next. Giving jamming as well is incredibly valuable, especially in the Royal Knights match. Not having to worry about dying in security always feels fantastic. So you can place a card in your hand to trash any one source for each face down card. If you're promoting a training rookie, and then digivolving into this guy for a cost of 2, and you trained last turn, right? That is 2 cards that you do get to strip out from anything, which, you know, 2 cards are usually enough. You do have to be mindful in the Rocks matchup, but thankfully that one didn't come up too terribly much. And that's for our 4s. Your 4s are there to digivolve on top of your 3s to get you into your really powerful 5s if they can. And then so that's what you use these 8 for, and then you use Vegemon to play him out for 3 cost to end your turn, passing your opponent low or to 3, and then getting a Vademon to insulate yourself upon. And then, you know, we'll go into Vademon in a second. But for now, we're going to start with our version 1 level 5, which is Metal Greymon. I'm on 3 copies. With jamming, I really want Sec +1, like really, really bad. So I decided to play 3 of this guy just to make sure he was always in rotation to get him into the stack as often as I could. It felt great, you know, being able to delete up to XDP is really solid. There was a time where I got up to like being able to delete up to 19k total, so it was just a board wipe. Being able to slot this underneath whenever I had a Machine Dramon that just had so many sources. Yeah, love this guy. So very happy to have him. And we're on 2 copies of Metal Mamemon. I know I said I was going to play maybe more copies. I only ended up going on 2 because I found Vademon more valuable. But Metal Mamemon in his own right is so strong. This is one of the only 2 cards that always gets its removal because its removal is conditional. Metal Greymon has to delete by placing something underneath from trash. Metal Mamemon only strips sources if you place something underneath it. It always returns something to bottom of deck that has no sources. So you're able to, a lot of times your opponent plays out something and you're like, okay, cool. It's early. It's like turn 2 or whatever. I promote. I raid into your... I like Digivolve up front, play a Digimon, and then I'm like, I don't have any Digimon in trash, but I do still get a Metal Mame here, and Metal Mame effect lets me return your Digimon that is causing me problems to the bottom of the deck. Really, really helpful in the Royal Knights matchup. Maybe should have considered bumping him up to 3 copies based on how my day went, but, you know, going into it, I had to feel safe, and so I went with 2 copies. of this guy. And I have 2 alls, so it works out pretty well. Next up, All-Star. The reason that you play version 2, of course, is for the version 2 Vademon. Vademon is incredibly powerful. Vademon has Fragment anytime it would be deleted, which is really, really good. When Digivolving and when attacking, get to Devo 1 always, which is also really solid. It just negates 99% of all ace plays that your opponent could have. It also can trash a bottom face down source to bounce a 4-cost or lower Digimon or Tamer. The or Tamer part is really what you're using this form in this current format. If you're going into Huddy and they only have 1 Tamer out early, being able to, theoretically raid into that body that if they have a Tamer and a Digimon out, you get a raid into the body and bounce the Tamer back to hand. Being able to do both of those in one swing is invaluable. And Vademon being able, even though he says he costs 4, he always usually costs about 2, based on a training rookie and the Wind Digivolving effect if you're level 4. On top of a Vegemon, he's free. So definitely have no complaints about Vademon in this. I'm also only on 3 copies because, much like the Vegemon before him, I only own the 3 copies, which I did not know until a little bit, until after I set everything up. And he's only a common. So the fact that I got 3 of each of these is really good. If I only opened 2 of these, I probably would have just stuck with version 5. Even leading up to the event of the day, I almost went with version 5 because I was just so much more comfortable with it. And next up, we have 1 copy of Andromon. And Andromon's a weird one here. Blocker Inherited's really good, but as I forgot to mention previously, Vademon's Inherited effect says redirect at during opponent's turn 1 time. Being able to redirect's really, really strong. Like, I don't think I can stress enough how powerful it is to be able to go Vademon redirect into my Machinedramon and still be able to put on the pressure to attack while not having to, and having the removal while not having to commit to Andromon. You still play the 1 just to make sure that your assembly is live. As it currently stands, you need 4 level 5 cyborgs. Vademon does not count for that. They all have to have different names. So you do have to play this one just to have a 5th name, essentially, just to make sure that you can assembly in like a very big pinch. And, DP removal, minus 3k by placing something, and then additional minus 2 of every face down isn't bad. It's just the one that I found myself wanting the least the entire day. However, one of the ones I found myself wanting the most was Megadramon. I love this card. I think I've already talked a lot about why I like this card in the past, so I'll not hold you guys hostage, but being able to do 2 Digimon based on play cost and number of sources is so incredibly valuable, especially in a format where we have a deck that's just playing out a ton of like 5-6 cost Digimon, right? By the time, if you have a training rookie in the back, you Digivolve into a 4, put something underneath, Digivolve into this guy, he pops 2 7-cost or lower. 2 7-cost or lower Digimon can include level 6 aces, so you are able to just like steal turn with this guy and then go into Machinedramon, for instance. Not to mention that his Inherited says, by unsuspending this Digimon, delete your Digimon with the lowest DP. It can be negated by the Machinedramon Inherited effect, so you are able to just get in 2, sometimes 4 checks in a single turn, right? He is there to kill, right? And I love him for that. He is so good, and I love him so much. For our final level 5 here, we are on 2 copies of Metal Tyrannomon. This alongside Metal Mamemon are the 2 Digimon that don't care about placing something underneath it for the removal. This one does de-Digivolve 1 for each face down source, which is really, really good in some tricky matchups that otherwise your removal might not be as good in. So having Metal Tyrannomon here is incredibly valuable. De-Digivolve 1 upwards of like 3 or 4 times usually, or more if you're in a Machinedramon stack. And Piercing are very, very good. This guy I had 1 of for the longest time, and then I went up to 2, and I'm so happy that I have 2 copies of this card. And that's it for our 5s. We're on, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 level 5s, because a lot of the time, if you're stuck on a handful of 5s, you are just able to discard 1 to play the other for a cost of 5. And then if your opponent can't out that body, a lot of the time you are also just able to Digivolve into a Machinedramon on top. So like, that's really good. And if not, you don't Digivolve on top of Machinedramon, sometimes you have a copy of this card. I'm on 2 Blitzgreymon Aces. This card does just say, when Digivolving, Devo 3, and on play, technically. Devo 3 is really good, right? That takes a level 6 down to a level 3, and so you are able to just like outright do that. And not to mention, if they're a 7, you go down to a 4. This guy does have blocker, and if you're going on top of a Vademon, that does still have the redirect. So that is 2 blocks that you were threatening at ace timing with a Devo 3. He also notably, I had thought that his end of your turn effect had basically been worded that you can DNA and then that DNA Digimon may attack. That isn't the case. He himself can attack, or can make anything attack with his end of a turn effect. So he is just a Blitz Omni for this deck. He is a Devo 3 in a pinch, or, you know, to threaten it, right? And he has Alliance. He also has Alliance for some reason. So he's able to Alliance and just do, you know, 2 checks on his own, or 3 if there's a Metal Greymon in sources. So very, very strong card. But, you know, the main reason that we're here is for this guy. 4 copies of EX9 Machinedramon. I am still constantly blown away at my ability to have opened 4 copies of this card. This card is just so powerful. On play, when Evo, when attacking, place a level 5 Cyborg or version 5 card from your hand or trash. I had thought this card was only trash up until genuinely 2 days before the event. I had been playing this with only playing stuff from trash. There were multiple scenarios in the past where I could have put stuff from my hand and it would have outed a board state, and I could have done it the whole time, and I just had no idea. So we're on 4 copies of this guy. You know, I don't need to repeat it. Being able to put any level 5 from our versions 1 through 5 from EX9 to be able to play anything for a reduced cost, or to be able to get its effect, get its inherited effect, and apply pressure is really good. His protection not being once per turn makes it really, really gummy. It's a little bit weird with the Vademon, because Vademon's not a cyborg, so you can't actually trash him to protect yourself. But, you know, usually if you have a Vademon in your source, you usually have enough face-down sources to survive long enough to do what you need. Next up, we are on our Tamers. This is all of our Digimon lineup, and I wouldn't change anything if I could. The only thing I would change is maybe add a copy of Vegemon, add a copy of Vademon, cut an Angemon, cut a Gabumon, probably, and go down to 11 rookies, because by adding another Vegi and Vademon, that would be 2 more version 2s, so I could probably go -1 on one of my rookies. With that being said, for our Tamers, we are on 1 copy of Analog Man. For a very long time, I was a big proponent of Analog Man. Having a setter in a deck is really good, especially a deck like this that just loves anything that if you give it an inch or an extra 1 or 2 memory, it can really take a mile. But I was finding a lot of the time I just didn't want to commit an Analog Man, hardly ever, unless it was like turn 2 or turn 3. And so a lot of the times I was finding that I was just like tucking him as a face down source. By the time that his effect would be online, right, I just wasn't utilizing playing anything that was 7 cost or higher, so I didn't need Vademon, or I didn't need Analog Man. When I have X-Tyrannomon, I think maybe 2 or 3 copies is really solid, because with Fortitude, it does mean that you can kind of just Fortitude in and then get its secondary effect again. But I think in version 2, I think 1 to 0 even was pretty good. But I liked the setter in some matchups, so I wouldn't trade it. One card that I wish I had another copy of course, being Analog Youth. This guy is so good. Start of main, tuck any card from your hand underneath a Digimon as a face-down source. Incredible already. Lets you, if you go Training Rookie in the back, play an Analog Youth, that is guaranteed on top of, and if you have another level 4 that places a source, that's 3 sources. You can turn any version 2 into a 1 cost, or, you know, free Vademon if you use the Sunomon egg, just off of 1 additional card. Any time that you place a face down source, also you get a gain of memory, and then if you have 7 or fewer cards in hand, draw a card. Face down sources are always being used from hand most of the time, and so there were very, very few times that I found myself at like 8 cards in hand. And if I found myself at 8, I gotta go put 1 underneath. I'm now at 7, so I get to draw a card, right? And if you have multiple Analog U's, you can stack them in such a way that, like, if you only have 2 cards in hand, if you have 3 Analog U's out somehow, right? You get to go, okay, I'm gonna tuck 1 card underneath. I'm gonna suspend all 3 of these because they just care about when something is placed underneath it, underneath one of your Digimon, and draw 3 cards and gain 3 memory. And then now I'm so much further back into the game. Giving everything reboot is largely irrelevant, but does prevent your opponent from attacking into your bodies, which can help in some weird matchups. I would have played 4 Analog Youth if I could, but I only had the 3, and that's okay. I think he went pretty well overall. And for our last 4 cards, we're on our options. We're on 1 copy of File Island. I have this in here because I really like this card. It can help save games. There's an argument because you're playing this card to never scoop. If you have security left. If you have no security left, you always do it, because File Island can just say, okay, cool, play a Kabuterimon, suspend opponent's Digimon. Like, that can just save your life. Angemon for the same reasons. So 1 copy of this card's really good. I don't know if I'd play more. If I had ways to cheat them into my security, maybe, but as it stands, I think 1 was really, really solid. And our last 3 cards are Meat. If I had a 4th analog youth, it would only be on 2 Meat. Meat is just so good. It just says main, draw a card, place in battle area, and then main, delay, trash it from the battle area, put a card from your hand face down as the bottom source of your DM trait Digimon to allow it to digivolve into a DM trait Digimon for a cost reduction of 2. Even if, like, there was a time that you'll see in the game shortly where I went Gabumon into Vegemon and I had nothing, but I did have Vademon in hand, right? So I was able to go Gabumon, Vegemon, play Meat, and then promote the Vegemon, use Meat's effect, tuck a card underneath, digivolve into Vademon for free because he digivolved for 3 on top. And then suddenly, again, I'm in the driver's seat, just with that one little bit of tempo there. And then, from there, anything can happen in the game, but I felt really, really solid about that. So this is the 50. This is the 54, I guess. I was really happy with this deck overall. I would have loved to have had a 4th copy, a piece of Vegemon, Vademon, and Analog Youth, and then maybe getting a BT11 Analog Man would have been really nice, but I think that was too much to ask for based on what I had access to. So with all of that being said, I am very, very happy with how far we made it on the series. And I'll get a little bit more sappy later. So for now, let's go ahead and jump into the games. And we'll see how we went in round 1. And before we hop into the games, I did want to remind you guys, we had a relatively low turnout for a Star Regional. We had about 30 players, give or take 1 person. And it was a little bit unfortunate because I really would have liked to have been able to have top 4 get an invite instead of just top 2. But what can you do, right? I guess people just really hate Huddy right now, which, based on how easily it can kill you, I can't quite blame them for. So let's go on into round 1. All right, and as you can see, our first round is against Huddy. I believe that I am going first. I'm going to hatch a Sunomon, go into the Biomon, training, and play an Analog Man. Turn 1 Analog Man, my opponent has nothing else going on, it's really solid. My opponent hatches Yoko, goes into Terrier, plays a Searcher Gatsu, reveals 3, picking up a new Wormmon, excuse me. And then plays another Gatsu, revealing 2 Gatsus and a Huddymon. They have to take a Huddy at this point just to make sure, but I go to 3 at the start of my turn. I promote the Biomon. I digivolve for 2 into Garurumon. Garurumon's effect, I place a card underneath for no effect, but I wanted to digivolve into Vademon for a cost of 1. I attack with Vademon here. There was an argument in my head that I should have bounced the Gatsu back to hand, but I didn't want to give them another Digimon here. But I walk over the Gatsu with Raid and play an Analog Youth to pass my turn. My opponent promotes Terrier. They digivolve into Glare, which is a Golemon. They use Terriermon's effect to tuck the Golemon at the bottom to draw a card, and then off of Terriermon, they play a Tamer. They actually end up playing the Erika Mishima here. Then they digivolve their Terriermon into a Huddymon. Huddymon's effect here, when digivolving, allows them to play a 5-cost or lower card with the Huddy trait. They play a Wormmon. They go ahead and out my entire board. They use Erika's effect at end of turn to pick up that Wormmon and actually place it back in the security area. I'm looking at my trash, trying to figure out what all I have access to here. I digivolve into an Elecmon in the back. I training off of the Elecmon. I then go ahead and I presume I have a level 5 in hand that might be able to out the board, but I just don't think I have enough gas. I go Elecmon into Vegemon, draw a card, and then I actually rip into a Meat. So I use that Meat to pass my opponent to 1. They gain a memory off the Erika. They start of main off of the Erika to digivolve the Wormmon they just played into a Huddymon. Huddymon allows them to play Chitose. Chitose allows them to play Angemon, and Angemon draws them a card. They debate here going into an early DNA, which I personally do not agree with here. They do end up DNAing into Shaku. They declare an attack. I remind them they need to draw a card, and they attack with Shaku at 8k. They actually hit a Metal Mamimon, which is incredibly good for me based on the rest of the contents of my hand. They attack with Huddymon for 2 checks at 8k. They actually hit a Blitzgray Ace off the first one, and then their Huddymon stack with the rookie that allows them to continue the loop dies with it. They don't actually activate the when attacking effect either. So they go ahead and play a Keisuke for 4. Then they use Keisuke at end of turn to bounce the Gatsumon back to hand to play a Ryuji. Ryuji gives the Shakumon reboot and blocker. I promote my Vegiemon, start of main off Analog Youth to gain a memory and draw a card. Sunomon's effect allows me to Digivolve for a cost reduction of 1. I get -2 for the face down sources I already have. So I go into Veggie for free off of Analog Youth start of main. I go ahead and trash a source to bounce the Keisuke back to hand. I use the meat to Digivolve into Metal Mamemon, or to Digivolve into Machine Dramon, placing Metal Mamemon as my source. I strip all the sources by putting Metal Mamemon as my source. Yeah, I empty their board entirely. And then I go ahead and play a Gabumon. I get a search. I pick up a meat. I place something underneath, and then I use the meat for 2. I am in an incredibly strong position here. I have a Machine Dramon that is immune, or that is not immune, but it has a bunch of protections. I have a Gabumon that I can use to just sacrifice for an additional security check here. My opponent plays a Chitose, and then they go ahead and play a Gatsumon. They get to pick up either the Keisuke or the Comet Hammer, and so now I do have to worry about a Digivolve 4 in my future. But Analog Youth allows me to gain a memory, draw a card at start of main. I Digivolve into Bio in the back. I Training. I have a bunch of cards in my hand. And then I go ahead and play another Analog Youth. I go ahead and put a Metal Greymon in my sources. And then I go ahead and Metal Greymon here. Metal Tyrannomon here to pop their Gatsumon. I realized afterwards that the reason I had played the Analog Youth when I did was to attempt to pass my opponent less memory off the Metal Tyrannomon. I was supposed to go ahead and suspend it to gain a memory and draw a card. But I forgot. I go ahead and play a third Analog Youth to end my turn. My opponent Digivolves their Palmon into a Honeymon after gaining, 4 memory at start of main. Honeymon allows them to play a Terriermon. They go ahead and use the -6k off the Honeymon to kill my Gabumon, which I also did an attack with last turn for some reason. They go ahead and declare alliance with Honeymon. Honeymon with Terriermon is another 8k attack. They use Chitose to give me another -3, so I'm at -9 currently. And then they suspend the Ryuji to use Comet Hammer to delete my stack. Then this is for 2 checks at 10k, I believe. And then they actually hit File Island. File Island here is really solid because it allows me to play out a body. I end up playing out the Garurumon. Garurumon's effect on play lets me strip out the Terriermon source. So if they do have the loop present, which they don't seem to based on the fact that they played a level 3 instead of level 4 off the Honeymon effect, it does prevent them from doing it in the future. They go ahead and play Keisuke. Keisuke's effect, they return the Honeymon to hand to actually play a Chitose from their hand to play Wormmon. Because they use their Erica really early, they don't have a way to have it in breeding, which is really good for me. Start of main, I go ahead and place 1 card underneath to gain 3 memory and draw 3 cards off of my Analog Youths. I elect not to use any further effects to tuck anything. I Digivolve into Garurumon for 2. I do not use Garurumon's effect, but I do go into Metal Greymon, grabbing a Biomon from my trash to delete my opponent's board. I swing in with the Garurumon. I use Meat here to put a card underneath Metal Greymon to go into Machine Dramon, tucking a Mega Dramon in my trash, doing 2 checks. They hit Woken Palm. I shave myself, and then I go ahead and unsuspend off the Mega Dramon inherited to swing for game. We take game 1 pretty well. My opponent had a couple misplays, but I think that we were still well in the driver's seat for most of it. My opponent Digivolves into a Palmon in the back, and then Digivolves into Gatsumon. Gatsumon picks them up a Seedramon as well as a Woken Palm. I go into Elecmon in the back, and then I Training the Elecmon. I go ahead and Digivolve into Garurumon for 2. Just to set up for a level 5 for next turn if I really need it. And then I'm debating on what I want to do here. I go into Metal Greymon. I just don't have anything else in my hand. I do have the Metal Greymon, so if I am able to just threaten a level 6 next turn, which is really good for me. They Digivolve Palmon that they promoted into a Seedramon here. They're debating, I think, on whether to use Seedramon's effect. They end up not doing it. They end up doing 2 checks with Seedramon, and they hit 2 5k. So that's really, really good for them that they didn't hit one of my many level 5s or 6s. Because now that allows them to keep their Seedramon and go some more. They got to draw 2 cards off of it, and they're feeling really good. They go Chitose. Chitose's effect lets them play Golemon. So now if Golemon becomes suspended, they do get to delete my body. And here, that comes up really well. I go ahead and attack into the Seedramon, forgetting that Chitose is not a when your Honey Trait Digimon attack, it's whenever they are suspended. So I had the Mega Dramon in hand because I knew I'd be able to outboard if I did it that way, and I just forgot that Chitose gave me -3, which let me be deleted. However, Mega Dramon tucking a card face down lets me delete 2 5 costs. So I do delete both their level 4s. They go to 2 memory at the start of their turn with their Chitose. And I am at 5 cards in hand and looking not great. They digivolve a Yoko in the back into a Palmon, as well as have a Gatsumon up front to do stuff with. They digivolve the Gatsumon into an Angemon just to try and draw more cards, which I don't hate. And are debating what to do next. The problem here with Huddy is that they're going to probably give me enough memory to do whatever I want. And I mean, they use a Woken Palm, which I believe is a pretty good start for them. I go ahead and Digivolve in the back into Elecmon and use Training. Looking at my hand, trying to figure out what I can do best with the 6 cards present to me. I play a Vegemon for 3, and then I Digivolve for 3 into Metal Mame to put a card underneath, stripping a source and putting the Chitose to the bottom of the deck. My opponent goes to 2 memory off of their Chitose, but if they attempt to out my Metal Mamemon here with the Woken Palm, I mean, that lets me get it out early. If they don't out me, I do just have access to what I need with a Machinedramon. My opponent Digivolves up front into a Huddymon. They play out a Chitose. Chitose's effect lets them play out a Golemmon. But this time I'm smart and I remember that I should not be hasty. I look at my trash trying to figure out what I have. I'm at 2 memory, but I go ahead and use Elecmon training. I leave it in the back, so I training it, and then I'm debating what to do. I do have the Machinedramon in hand. I'm going to Machinedramon, placing a Metal Mamemon underneath to put the Huddy on bottom and leave them with the Golemmon. I could have Megadramon, but it would have only been 6 cost, so I wouldn't have been able to do much. My opponent has 3 memory, and I officially am online with 2 layers of protection on my Machinedramon. So even if they gave me -6, or even if they attempted to leave me with Woken Palm, they wouldn't be able to because I'd be able to protect myself at least once. My opponent will hard Digivolve Golemmon into Shaku for 3, giving me a start of main must attack, which is also really good for me because I get to, add some cards to my sources. My opponent attacks with their Shaku. They hit an Analog Youth in my security, which is also really, really good for me. They do end up using the Woken Palm, and I strip my bottom 2 face down sources. My opponent ends their turn by using Ryuji to give their Huddymon or their Shakumon reboot and blocker. I promote. I use start of main off of Analog Youth to tuck a card underneath the Machinedramon to gain a memory and draw a card. I use the Machinedramon effect to place another card underneath, and if my opponent didn't hit exactly Analog Youth and security, they were able to just do what they needed. Shakumon does let them replay out the Golemmon. They do block with the Golemmon. They attempt to delete my Machinedramon with another Woken Palm from my hand off of the Ryuji. They do end up being deleted by battle. I do have piercing for 2 checks. I hit another Ryuji as well as a Gatsumon. I am in a pretty okay spot here given everything. I go ahead and use Vegemon at end of turn with a Analog Man that I have to Digivolve Vegemon into a Vademon for free. Just to threaten an ace. I go ahead and trash a source here, and I bounce one of the Ryujis to hand. I want to leave Chitose in rotation because on-play Chitose is a lot more valuable for them than on-play Ryuji, which seems a little bit backwards. You would think that I would want to delete... I would want to get their DP minus out, but I'm not that worried about it. Their main way of removal is with Woken Palm. They go ahead and promote their Palmon. They attack with Palmon off Yokomon to draw a card. They use the Woken Palm to attempt to delete Vademon. Vademon will fragment away all 3 of his sources. I let the attack go through. They go ahead and play a Comet Hammer to Devo 4, putting me into a Vegemon on top of my Machinedramon. And with no Digimon, I'm feeling... They play a Terriermon, but at this point, I'm feeling really good. Start of main off of Analog Youth, I place a card underneath the Vademon to gain a memory and draw a card. And since I'm at 3, I'm always able to threaten something. Vademon's going to attack. I'm going to Devo, and then I'm going to bounce another Ryuji to their hand. I'm going to go Vegemon into Metal Greymon to delete their thing, and then I'm going to go Machinedramon into go into Machinedramon, have Metal Mame to unsuspend my board. So now, again, I am at a Machinedramon with little effort, Machinedramon with 2 sources available to it. I pass it to my opponent. They are thinking in their breeding step here, and they go ahead and hatch their final egg. I have no rookie in the back, so if they are able to out my board, I am pretty bad off, but their deck is designed for a lot of one-for-one removal here. So since I've been taking out their Tamer so much, they've not been able to just assemble a bunch of stuff here. They go ahead and play Cherubimon Ace for 7. Cherubimon Ace is going to play them a Terrier. They're going to give me -4 until the end of my turn, but that's not going to matter a ton. Start of main off of the Analog Youth, I place a card underneath the Machinedramon. I Digivolve into a BO in the back and training. I play another Analog Youth. I use Machinedраmon's effect to play a Megadramon underneath and slot a card, and then I go up to 10 memory. I did this because it does give me enough here to do what I need. I go ahead and make a second attack and swing for game off of the Machine German. So that is us taking game number 1. Let's see what happens over in game number 2. All right, and here we are for round 2. We're up against RKs, or Royal Knights. My opponent is going first. They go Yigi, Drazel into Drazel, and then they play the old Omekamon to draw a card. I go into Biomon in the back, training, place a card underneath, going to a Kabuterimon for 2 in the back, going into a Vademon for... I think I Digivolve here for 3 when it should have been for 4. That is a misplay on my part that I had totally missed. I was probably I was reading the Vademon effect. It only works if it's on the battle area. My opponent will attack with their Omekamon. They will die. Omekamon will place a Dynasmon underneath, and they will play a Sistermon block, discarding a card from hand to draw 2. I will raid Vademon into their Sistermon block. They gave me 2 memory, so I'm able to play an Analog Youth for 3. My opponent plays Last Guardians, picking up a Craniamon. And then they go ahead and play a Magnamon for free, thinking they're able to play it for a different cost, but unfortunately are not. And then my opponent will play another Last Guardian to pick up, I believe, a Jesmon. I will go ahead and start of main on the Vademon using Analog Youth to put another card underneath it. I will go ahead and attack with Machine German, placing a card underneath to do 2 checks, and that is an Omekamon as well as a Cool Boy. The Cool Boy is really bad here for me. I'll go ahead and play an Analog Youth to end my turn. I apologize for for not being able to see the full board here. I kind of just misplayed it. My opponent's asking how many layers of protection I have, and I have 2 layers. Since I have Vademon in the source, it does not count as a layer of protection, so I do have 2 layers, and I also have a... redirect in it. My opponent plays a Magnamon for free, and they go ahead and play they use Cool Boy to pick it up, and then they go ahead and play a Digital Gate Open to pick up a Digimon card. Analog Youth at start of main lets me go ahead and place a card underneath Machine German. I tuck another card under Garurumon here, and I should really be on the offensive, and I am. I will Machine German, placing a Metal Tyrannomon underneath it to give myself piercing in case they do block it. I will go ahead and check again 2 more cards, and they play out the Omekamon. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way for me to out the Omekamon. I play a Meat. Because I don't want them to just have a free Omekamon here, and I would really like to be able to do other things, and I actually don't really have a better play here, so I go ahead and just open pass to my opponent. They play Oryuken Ace for 1. They delete me, and they gain 3 memory off their Cool Boy. They play another Sistermon Blanc to discard a card to draw 2. They discard. I didn't notice that they were playing this Marcus. The something gets +3, something gets -3 on suspension, and on play suspend something, which is really cute. Omekamon here to draw a card. They play another Last Guardian, picking up another Cool Boy as well as a Dynasmon. Dynasmon's incredibly powerful for Royal Knights, being able to just 1-for-1 every single turn. I go ahead and ask my opponent everything they got going on. They play another Cool Boy, so they're at maximum Cool Boy potential here. I promote Garurumon. I go ahead and use Analog Youth to tuck a card underneath it to gain a memory and draw a card. Debating Sunomon here, looking at my hand, trying to figure out what I have available to me. I go ahead and pop the Meat. I place a card underneath to Digivolve Garurumon into Andromon. Andromon's going to let me place another card underneath it. So I will give 5, 7, 9, 11... -11 to Oryuken, and then I'll place Metal Greymon to attempt to delete everything, and I'm actually unable to, though I am able to keep turn here. Though, unfortunately, not being able to delete Oryuken Ace like I was wanting to is really, really what I call bad for me, because I can't attack here, because if I do attack, my turn is over. I go ahead and represent Metal Greymon here to delete a card, to tuck a card underneath off of Analog Youth Man to gain a memory and draw a card, and then Oryuken Ace to gain some extra memory. They'll go ahead and play Omekamon. Omekamon's going to play out Digivolve into Omni. Omni's going to attempt to delete everything except Metal Greymon, so I'll use Machine German to protect it, and then they will attempt to bottom deck the Metal Greymon, which is fine. I'll pay 3 for a Vegemon. Vegemon's going to de-Digivolve 1, and then I'm going to strip a source to... or go into Vademon. Vademon's going to de-Digivolve 1 on the Omni X to get it out of rotation, and then I will return one of the Cool Boys to the hand. Hitting 2 of these guys in security is really detrimental for me. It just provides so much value. They play Omnimon for effectively free using their Cool Boys. They use the effect to attempt to de-Digivolve or to delete me, and then are unable to. And then they try to Digivolve, and I remind them, like, you still have Drazel. Like, very rarely does an Omnimon player actually play and have a Drazel or have a guy in rotation, or have Drazel in rotation after playing Omni for using its first deletion effect. My opponent ends with the Royal Knights of the Purge, putting a card underneath and drawing a card. I now have to basically figure out, like, how am I not going to die here? Because it is very, very likely that I do. I go ahead and play a Gabumon, revealing the 3, put a card underneath, grab Vademon to hand, gain a memory, and draw a card off of Analog Youth. Swing with Machine Dramon when attacking, Mega Dramon effect. Tuck a card underneath it to pop their Omekamon. I check a security. They use Drazel to play out an Omekamon. Omekamon's effect lets them go into Omni X. Omni X is going to attempt to delete everything except the Vademon. I will go ahead and use Machine Dramon to protect itself, and then I would attempt to use the Machine Dramon to... I tried to fragment, couldn't fragment because fragment's only for deletion, and he was attempting to bounce me. Here now I'm looking at it, and I'm just not in a great spot. I don't have a good way to out 2 really big play cost guys. I go Metal Mamemon here for 7. I use Andromon's effect to tuck a card underneath, and then I go ahead and attempt to return at the bottom of the deck. They use a Last Guardians to tuck it underneath, and then Omni X, they use it again to not have them go underneath Drazel. They attack, they raid into Metal Mamemon. I used a layer of protection on Machine Dramon after a redirect with the Vademon source, which I also trashed here, but I promise you it doesn't matter. They go ahead and play another Omnimon. Omnimon lets them play out all their guys here, and that's just curtains. I don't have enough redirects here to do anything with. Dynasmon's effect, they would trash a card, but they can't. They will delete me. They will delete my board. They will attack with an Omni. They will attack with something, and then that's just a game. I don't have enough blockers here to do anything about it. We lose that game. I elect to make my opponent go first again because I really want to be able to respond to what they do. So my opponent goes Drazel into Drazel and then plays another block to draw 2 cards. I go into Gabu, into Kabuteri. Kabuterimon trains, and then I play a Meat. My opponent plays a Magna for 1. Magna targets itself to give itself protection, and then my opponent plays a Hakuto. I thought Hakuto only cared about exactly 3s and 4s. I didn't realize it was a 4 or higher. So this card's a lot better than I thought that it was. I promote Kabuterimon. I am debating here what I want to do. I go Meat effect, place a card underneath to digivolve into Metal Greymon for 1. Forgetting I don't have a Digimon in trash, so this is effectively nothing. I attack with the Metal Greymon at security. I suspend their Magnamon, and then I hit a Kongu. Kongu's pretty okay for me to hit right now. I don't worry about it too much. Forgetting that I didn't have a Digimon in trash, I end up open passing, which feels really bad giving my opponent that to work with so early. My opponent plays a token off of a Jesmon and then deletes my body. Then they go ahead and elect to play a Digital Gate open as well to pick up a couple of cards, giving me 4. I am at what I would consider a pretty bad spot here. I go ahead and play Metal Mamemon. Metal Mamemon's effect, I discard a card to make it only cost 5, and then I go ahead and pitch a card to bottom deck the Jesmon. They use Hakuto here to gain an additional memory when I do play the Metal Mamemon. They have 2 attackers, but more notably, they have 2 decoy targets. So they go ahead and play Last Guardians for 3. They pick up Omni X, I think. No, yeah, they pick up Omni X and Cool Boy, and then they gain back 3 memory off of their Drazel inherits. They go ahead and use, or you can ace on Metal Mamemon, which feels really good, and then they go ahead and play a Cool Boy here. Being on 2 Cool Boys is really good for them. I play a Vegemon for 3, and I'm trying to figure out how to pass turn. I go ahead and pay 3 to Digivolve Veggie into a Metal Mame for 3 cost. I go ahead and strip all the sources that are there that aren't there, I should say, and then I put or you can ace on bottom. My game plan here is to just try and keep my opponent off of however much that I can cards underneath Drazel. Now that they only have a couple of ways to do it, it's a lot better for me. They go ahead and do or you can ace again. Outing my Metal Mamemon, and they go Crimson Blaze. I'm not playing anything by effect, but I think it's just better than Open Pass. I use Meat here to draw a card because I do have a Sunomon, and then I use Analog Youth. I am out of level 5, so they are able to start getting some things underneath it, which is really good for them. Coupled with the Cool Boy, they are just in a much better game plan here than I am. They're going to play Omni X and then attack at end of turn. I'm going to draw a card. I'm going to go to Lekmon. I'm going to do some training. I'm going to go into Garurumon. I'm going to play Vegemon. Vegemon's effect, take 3 cards here, tuck underneath, go into the Vademon that's in my hand or trash. I thought I had one in rotation even in that moment, and I did not. So we're actually going to probably have to go into the Metal Mom. Or no, we do have Vademon. Vademon here is going to de-digivolve, and then I'm going to attempt to return a Cool Boy to hand. I was debating using the Metal Mamemon here to bottom deck the Omni X, but I chose not to, and that was probably a mistake. I really should be on just get rid of everything, not let anything be sucked underneath Drazel as much as I can. My opponent plays Alphamon for free.
They attack with Blanc. They hit a Cool Boy. A card was removed, so they give me -12 to delete my guy here. And then they go ahead and play another Sistermon Blanc, discarding a card to draw 2. And then I promote my Garurumon, start of main on my analog use. I'm finally in a position now where I can start doing some things. I have 7 cards in hand, so I'm trying to debate. I'm trying to do analog youth stuff to gain as much memory as I can and draw as many cards as I can to make sure I get as far in my deck as I possibly can. I use Meat here. I took a card underneath to Digivolve into Metal Greymon for 1. Metal Greymon's effect lets me tuck a card underneath it, and then I target all 3 of the decoy bodies to turn those offline. From here, I go into Machine Germon for 3. I place Metal Mamemon underneath it, and then I put the Alphamon on bottom. And I had thought that the Cool Boy effect was only when something was deleted, but it's actually when something is removed. So I do give my opponent the ability to play the Omeka. Omeka will attack. They'll hit Machine Germon. On deletion, will save underneath the Drasil. And then they are, I believe, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They are exactly 1 memory off from being able to kill me with Omnimon this turn. Not that it's going to matter too much. They go ahead and play Gallant for 1. Gallant's going to let them recover. I believe that they're at... I think that puts them up to 6. I don't think I've been able to attack all game. So I am just really, really far behind here. My opponent picks up Omni X off of a Digital Gate Open, passing me to 3. I go unsuspend. I go Analog Youth, gain a memory, draw a card. I go Analog Youth number 2, question mark. I do not elect to do it. I go ahead and go Elecmon in the back, Digivolve, and then I go Training as well. I'm looking at my trash, looking at my hand, trying to figure out a way out of this, but my opponent has 6 security, and I don't have hardly any. And I know that an Oryukin Ace is just going to out me. I go Metal Mamemon from hand to bottom deck the Gallantmon, and then this is for 2 checks here. I then have a bunch of memories, so I start digivolving my Elecmon that I have in the back. I go into a Kabuterimon, I play a Meat, and then I go Kabuterimon. Just kidding. I go Gabumon. Gabumon's going to pick up a File Island. I have no version 2 card that I can tuck underneath. So if I live through this turn, File Island does allow me to do something. Unfortunately, my opponent has enough memory. They have the Digital Gate Open, which lets them play Cool Boy. They play Omni for 3, but it doesn't matter. They play out all their bodies. They gain 2 memory off the Cool Boys. And then Oryukin Ace will give -16 to my Machine Germon. If I had that File Island in rotation, I do technically live here, but they do just get to walk over it a couple of times. With all the bodies they had access to, they do just get to attack out and win the game. We actually end up losing set 2 for what's going to be a 4 or 5 round tournament. This is really detrimental and pretty much excludes me from being able to top if we're only at 4 rounds, or rather to get my invite. So I don't know. There's still a chance. Let's go ahead and see what happens in round 3. And here we are in round 3 against Rocks. My hand was upside down. My opponent hatches the Memory Gain Tumble, digivolves into a Sunarizamon, plays a Defense Training. They pick up the Magnetic instead of the play a free memory close here. And pass it to me. I go into Biomon. Biomon, they did not realize that training could happen in security, but I go ahead, Biomon Training, and then I play my Analog Man for 4, giving my opponent 2 memory. So I have a setter online because I know that my opponent really wants to play a closed setter as best as they can. My opponent plays another Defense Training. They are offered a Sunarizamon Searcher as well as another play a free closed Landramon. My opponent then picks up the Searcher, grabs the Sunariza, or picks up the Searcher, plays the Searcher, picks up a close as well as another level 4 and passes. I go ahead and digivolve. I go ahead and promote here. I digivolve into Biomon. I attack with Raid into their Sunarizamon, and then with the Vegemon that I digivolved into, and then I play a Meat to pass the turn, pass my opponent to 1. My opponent pays 4 and plays a close. I go ahead and digivolve my Vegemon into a Vademon. Vademon, I will pay 2 costs to digivolve because I only had 1 face-down source, but I will strip that source to bounce the close to hand. I digivolve into a Gabumon in the back, and then digivolve the Gabumon into a Garurumon in back, putting my opponent to yet another 1 memory. I'm trying really hard to keep my opponent to as little memory as I can, and notably keep them in raising as long as I can. My opponent will go ahead and promote. My opponent will digivolve into Landramon using Landramon's effect off the training for free. They'll trash the Tumblemon to gain a memory, and then they'll use another training to digivolve into Berganomon for 1. And then Berganomon here will allow them to... They will not elect to use its one digivolving effect, but they do end up playing a close to pass me to my 3. I am debating on if I want to promote here off of my Garurumon.
My opponent is a blocker, so I don't really have a great attack here. I don't have a face down source underneath my Vademon here, so I don't really have much I can do. But after much deliberation internally and externally, I do promote the Garurumon. I will go ahead and Digivolve Blitzgreymon Ace on top of my Vademon, and then I will attack for 2 checks with Alliance. I don't know why my phone was having so many issues recording right now. I apologize for that. But I go ahead and Digivolve to a Metal Mamemon. Even though I don't have anything in my trash to put underneath it, it still does bottom deck. So I will go ahead and bottom deck my opponent's Tsunarizamon, putting my opponent to their 3 against my Blitzgray Ace and Metal Mamemon. My opponent here is trying to figure out what they're going to do about my game state here. My opponent hatches a Tumblemon. They Digivolve the Tumblemon, probably. But I'm explaining to them all what effects that I have. And they're doing some math here to figure out how their board ends up looking. But for me, I think I'm in a very good spot. My opponent Digivolves into the cost reduction Digivolve Tsunarizamon, and again starts thinking. This is the first time that we've actually played, even though this player goes to my locals. This is the first time that we've played. This Tsunarizamon they thought was the Searcher, but it's the one that lets them tuck 2 cards underneath it, which they said is totally fine for them. They go for 2 into Landramon to search and tuck a blocker source underneath it off of the Golemon. Surprised that they didn't Digivolve, but I just don't think they saw the line. I go ahead and start my turn Digivolving into an Elecmon in the back, and then training with it. I play a Gabumon. I place a card underneath the Metal Mamemon. I go ahead and attack with Blitzgray Ace for 2 checks. I should have done Raid Piercing here, and I don't know why I didn't. But I will attack with Jamming on the Metal Mamemon, and my Metal Mamemon will survive against their Digimon. And then I play an Analog Youth to pass my opponent to 3. During my opponent's unsuspend phase, Metal Mamemon will unsuspend because of Analog Youth. My opponent promotes Tsunarizamon. They reveal Perganomon from hand to Digivolve their Sunariza into Perganomon for a cost of 2, tucking a Landramon. My opponent will go ahead and Perganomon effect to get rid of the Digivolve to Digivolve my Vademon, my Blitzgreymon down to a Vademon. My opponent will then go ahead and Digivolve for 6. That gives them 5. They Digivolve for 6 into Vademon. I'm keeping track of their memory here for them. They trash another source. They go ahead and attempt to delete me off of the Vademon effect, and they are unable to do so, or off the Magnetic Dramon effect because I fragment. My opponent then will go ahead and Digivolve my Metal Mamemon and delete my Gabumon. My opponent will attack with Magnetic Dramon. They will tuck 3 sources underneath. They'll trash the same 3 sources, and then they will delete my board and perform 2 strips and a check into my Digimon. From here, they used a scramble to make it actually only cost 5 to Digivolve. That's why the memory was off in my brain. And my opponent plays a Digital Gate Open for 4, grabbing a Pyramidi as well as the newest Close. I go ahead and start my turn at 3. I promote. I am looking at my hand. They are like, oh, my Magnetic should be suspended. And I was like, no, you only did 1 attack. Just stripped out 2 security. I started main off Analog Youth to tuck a card underneath it. And then I gain a memory and draw a card here. I reveal a Digimon card to give my opponent's Digimon Sec -1 and -3 KDP. At this point, I used Analog Youth because I finally have enough cards in my hand, or a few enough cards in my hand to be able to draw off of it. I pull up my sleeves and I sit there and think about how I want to out this stack. If I have access to Metal Tyrannomon, it does perfectly out it, but I don't. But I do have access to Vademon. Vademon here, I will Digivolve into, Digivolve 1, and then strip a source to bounce their Close to their hand. I go ahead and Digivolve into Blitzgray for 3. Blitzgray is going to Digivolve their Perganomon down to their egg, so it dies, and then I'll bounce. Then I'll attack with the Blitzgray Ace at end of turn. If I give my opponent 1 or 5, I don't think it matters too much. In hindsight, maybe I should have waited to attack, but such is life. If I wanted to kill my opponent next turn and not give them another turn to set up, I had to push the aggressive now. My opponent is start of their turn thinking on the scramble here. With a Digital Gate Open, with a scramble, they are kind of able to do what they want. But with Scramble, they go ahead and add Search or Sunrisa to top and play the cost reduction Sunrisa for free. They also go ahead and use Digital Gate Open to play a close for free. They reveal Proganomon. I remind them that that is not the correct Proganomon, and then we go to game number 2. They didn't have the other one in hand. That's what they should have picked up instead of the Sunrisa, but they realized too little too late. My opponent will start. They hatch the newer Tumblemon, the redirect Tumblemon. They go into a Sunrisa in the back, and then they play a close for 4 out of the gate. I go into Bio. I training on top of the Bio. Or training with the Bio, I should apologize. I go ahead and play a Gabumon for 3, revealing the top 3. I get to pick up I put the Metal Mamemon underneath it. I pick up the Blitzgray Ace because it was so valuable last game. And then I put the Kabuterimon on bottom. I then go ahead and Digivolve Biomon into Angemon. I really wish that I had the ability to not have to give my opponent to have a little bit more better efficient memory, but it's such is life. My opponent will Digivolve into a Landramon that plays in the back, and then play a training. I will go ahead and attack with the Gabumon after leaving my Angemon in the back, hitting a second setter close, which is really good for them. And then I Digivolve into a Metal Gray. My opponent will go ahead and play the Searcher Sunrisa. They pick up a Sunrisa and thought about picking up a close, ended up not doing it. They picked up another Sunrisa. They play another Sunrisa, and they pick up a Liberator and Rock, putting a Digital Gate Open on the bottom of the deck. I will start my turn. I will attack with the Gabumon, hopefully putting a Digimon with sources and trash, Digivolving into Machine Dramon for 3. Using Machine Dramon's effect, I'll put Mega Dramon for my hand as the top source to delete my opponent's 2 Digimon. I'll attack for 2 checks here, and then I'm debating on whether or not I want to give my opponent if I want to use the Mega Dramon effect. I end up not doing it. I go Gabumon effect. I put a card underneath it, adding Garurumon to the bottom of the deck and adding the Metal Tyrannomon to hand. My opponent's asking what kind of protections I have, and I say I have, what is that, 3 layers? That is 3 layers of protection if they do not de-Digivolve me, but I'm not immune to de-Digivolve. My opponent will Digivolve using a training into Proganomon for 1. They'll use another Proganomon, or they'll use another training to find the Magnetic Dramon that they were missing, and they'll Digivolve into Magnetic for 6 here. They will use... They're trying to figure out what all they have access in trash. They use a close to add 2 de-Digivolve sources. To attempt to, and then they will go ahead and strip 3 sources to delete 1 4 cost or less, and then de-Digivolve 2 on top of my Metal Greymon, and then they get to add 3 more sources here. Or they add 2 more sources, I think, off close. And then they add 3 more sources off of the Magnetic Dramon. That is correct. Go me. From here, they have a bunch of Fragment, but notably, they don't have anything to stop the de-Digivolve off of the Metal Tyrannomon that I have in rotation. Elecmon, Digivolve, and then Training, and then I go to another Machine Dramon. Machine Dramon's effect, I do have the Metal Tyrannomon in my trash. I put a card. I Digivolve 2, and then pop a 3K or less, so that just outs this board entirely. From here, I do get to go ahead and... Unfortunately, I wasn't able to threaten lethal this turn based on what my opponent had, but I will attack, and I will strip 2 sources to survive the Magnetic I hit in security. I'll Digivolve into a Veggie in the back, and then I'll Digivolve into a Vademon, threatening that for next turn. I'll put my opponent to 3. My opponent Digivolves into a Sunrisa in the back. They play the Sunrisa that allows them to reduce the Digivolution cost by 1, and are trying to figure out if there is a universe in which they are able to stop me from winning next turn. And between us, I don't believe that there is, but they're, give them the time to figure it out. Because if no matter what they Digivolve into here, they reveal the Proganomon, they grab the Landramon, they put 2 cards underneath it, one of them being Magnetic, which is funny. They're trying to play around my de-Digivolve, which I really, really respect. They use a close to add 2 de-Digivolve sources underneath. And they'll go ahead and draw a couple cards, and then they will not strip anything off the effect. I will attack with Vademon. Vademon will attack and hit Landramon, and that will be game number 2, or game set 3 that we will take game 2. Feeling really good so far. How the top tables are shaking out, it seems like it's only going to be a 4-round event, but there is a chance it seems like it's going to be a 5-round event, I should say. But if table number 2, if the down pair and the up pair draw, there probably won't be. Rather, I should say, if the down pair draws or loses, there will not be a 5th round. But if he wins, there should be a 5th round. So feeling optimistic that we're going to have a 5th round. So let's go see how round 4 looks first. And here we are in round 4 versus Galaxy. My opponent will start off with a Coronamon into on top of their Sunmon, and then go into the Play a Free Tamer Lekis. I will go into Bio, and then I'll Training, and then I'll Digivolve into a Kabuterimon for 2, play a Meat for 2, and pass. My opponent will promote their Coronamon, Digivolve, or use the effect to gain 2 memory, put Lekis on bottom, and then Digivolve into the Searcher Lekis. Lekis will grab them a Coronamon, as well as a Sayo. They will go ahead and Digivolve into Cressamon for 1, the old one, to Digivolve for 1, and then they will attack with the Cressamon at 9k. They will then go ahead and go into Dianamon here. I will go ahead and promote the Kabuterimon. Kabuterimon's effect, I'll place a card face down, and then I'll go ahead and go into Metal Tyrannomon for a cost of 1. I'll take the card as my bottom source to Digivolve, or the card from my trash that they hit to Digivolve 3, and delete their Digimon. I attack in, I hit a 7k and unfortunately die. I will play out a Veggie to end my turn. I'm not worried about it being deleted, so I'm fine here. I go ahead and attack with a Veggie. I Digivolve into a Gabumon in the back, and then my opponent has their setter now, and also they promote their Corona, so they're at 4 memory. They Digivolve into Fira, they grab another Diana as well as a level something else, putting a Fira on bottom. They'll use Corona's effect to tuck the Fira on bottom to Digivolve into the Lekis to play out the Sayo, the BT22 Sayo. They'll go ahead and use the Koen Sayo effect here to Digivolve into a Galgamon for free. They do get the memory because they have the extra sources, and then they'll attack with their Cressamon and have jamming, so they survive the attack against the Machine Dramon that's in my security. My opponent here will also go into Dianamon for 4. They are just low passing me, which is the correct thing to do, and I respect it heavily. I will use Meat here to Digivolve Gabumon into Garurumon for free. I'll tuck a card from my hand for the Meat, and then I'll tuck a card off the Garurumon effect. I get rid of the removal as well as the jamming, and then I get to Digivolve for 3 into Metal Tyrannomon to out their stack again, right? We're just really trading back and forth 1 for 1, like whose removal is going to be better. My opponent, I do have to put my opponent to 4 memory because they have a Sayo now, but you know, you gotta play into it as you can. My opponent Digivolves into their 3rd Coronamon here. Against my board, and are looking at their hand, trying to figure out their best play. They go Cressamon here for 7. Cressamon preventing my Metal Tyrannomon from suspending, but that's okay. I'll go into Machine Dramon. Machine Dramon here, I'm going to go into Metal Mamemon as my only form of removal to put it on the bottom of the deck because I don't want them to have a free Dianamon next turn effectively. I go into Gabumon in the back, and then I go ahead and play an Analog Youth for 3 memory. I do not have a suspend, but I do have 3 layers of protection. My opponent promotes the Corona, Digivolving into a Pheramon. They pick up Searcher Luna as well as a Setter Tamer. They use Corona's effect to tuck a card underneath. They Digivolve into the Play a Free Tamer Lekis, but do elect not to do so because that would be cheating because they have both their Tamers in rotation already. They've now used Sun and Corona, and so they have 2 Tamers online. They Digivolve into Cressamon for 1, preventing Metal Tyrannomon from suspending. And then they are trying to figure out what their best course of strategy here is. They do have Sayo online, so they can attack and Digivolve into the Dianamon that's on top of their trash currently, and that is exactly what they're going to do. They're going to Digivolve into Diana for 1. They get to strip 4 sources. They elect not to strip any of my face-down sources here. They strip Metal Mamemon as well as Gabumon and my egg and the Metal Tyrannomon that I had. I'm currently unable to suspend next turn, so this Machine Dramon stack is probably as good as dead. So now what they're going to do is they're going to go ahead and strip 4 sources and put me on bottom of deck because I can't protect myself anymore. So that's totally fine with me. They go ahead and play a Searcher Luna. They pick up a Galgamon as well as a Coronamon, putting a Pheramon on bottom. I go ahead and draw for turn. I promote the Gabumon, start of main effect here. I have a bunch of 7 cost guys in my hand, which means a bunch of level 5s. I'll go ahead and Gabumon effect here, or Analog Youth to put a card underneath, gain a memory, and draw a card. And now I'm debating on what to Digivolve into. I'm going to Digivolve here. My Gabumon will Digivolve into something probably, and we'll see if it's off of the Sunomon effect or not. For 2 into Garurumon. Garurumon's effect here, I get to strip 2 sources. I get to strip the protection as well as the plus 2k on my turn. Vegemon now. Vegemon's effect will place 3 cards underneath to go ahead and Digivolve into Vademon. Vademon will de-Digivolve and then bounce it to hand. So I've outed another Dianamon stack. I pass my opponent to 3 memory. They have just their Searcher Luna on board, and they have their 2 Tamers. They Digivolve into the Corona that I bounced back to their hand. They Digivolve their Luna into a Galgamon. I am down to 6. I was down to like 5 or 6 cards in hand, so they let me draw a card, and they actually don't gain any memory here, which is really good for me. My opponent will debate on what to do next here, because I am threatening a bunch of attacks next turn, especially if I have Megadramon in hand. My opponent will use the Lunamon effect to put the Galgamon on bottom, and then they will Digivolve, or they'll use the effect of the Ko and Sayo to put the Galgamon on bottom to Digivolve into Searcher Lekis for free, picking up a couple of cards. My opponent only has like 2 or 3 cards in hand. They use Blue Scramble to Digivolve into the new Cressamon here. I remind them that it is a mandatory effect to draw and discard 1. They have all but 1 card from their deck in their hand at this point. And I'm feeling really good. My new game plan here, they prevented my Garurumon from suspending, which is fine. My new game plan here is to just try and deck my opponent out, right? They would have to play a scramble every turn, but if I'm able to 1-for-1 removal them every single turn, like eventually I will be fine. My opponent goes Mirage Galgamon. They bounce the Vademon to my hand. I have 8 cards, so they only gain 2 memory. I go ahead and start of main off the Analog Youth to gain a memory and not draw a card, but I will go into the Vademon for free off of Sunamon's effect to Digivolve 1, and I will not trash anything from underneath. Digivolving to a Biomon on the back, training on the Biomon. Machine Germon for 3. Machine Germon's effect, placing Metal Tyrannomon as my top source to Digivolve them down to their Lunamon and delete it. From there, I go ahead and play a Meat to pass my opponent to 2. My opponent has no cards because they drew the last one in their deck off of their Mirage, so they do have to debate here what their game plan is. My opponent is at 3, is going to go up to their 4 memory. They do not have the gain a free memory Lunamon here. They only have the Searcher. They were never able to get the other one in rotation. So they have to play the Searcher Luna here, and they have to take Mirage Gal and put it on top because otherwise they lose the game on the spot. I go ahead and reveal my hand in the fun pattern of, oh hey, you have a Mirage Galgamon. I do have to respect it. They go promote Corona into Galgamon. They'll gain an additional memory off the Galgamon. They'll go ahead and Digivolve into Pheramon for 2. Here, we don't have to worry about them searching because they're not able to do so anymore. They're without any cards in deck. They go into Cressamon. Cressamon's effect is going to prevent my Machine Germon from suspending. They're going to attack with Cressamon, go into use Sayo to Digivolve for 1 into Diana, realize the game is over, and concede. I'm going to start us off on game 2. I will Digivolve into Bio, training, and then play an Analog Youth. My opponent will play Digivolve into Luna in the back and then play a Fira, grabbing only target as the Sayo. This is really solid for me because I get to go Analog Youth for 2 or for free, start of main, Digivolving my Biomon into Garurumon for a cost of 1. And then I get to raid over their Pheramon and then Digivolve into Vademon for free. I am threatening that if they do play a Tamer that I know is now in their hand, I do get to bounce it, right? And so that gets me a bunch of momentum here. They go ahead and play that Sayo for 4. I go ahead and start of main off my Analog Youth to draw 2 card, gain 2 memory. I Biomon in the back. I training the Biomon. I play another Analog Youth. I attack. I forget to trash a source to return the Sayo to hand, but such is life. I go into a Garurumon in the back and I have 3 Analog Youths in rotation. My opponent will promote their Lunamon, Digivolve into a Lekis, use the Lunamon effect to put the play a free Tamer Lekis on bottom to Digivolve into Pheramon. Pheromon's going to allow them to pick up a couple of cards. They're going to go into Cressamon. Cressamon here is going to attack, and they're going to hit a Gabumon in my security. I'm trying to figure, and then they play the Searcher Lunamon. Lunamon's only going to be able to pick up 1 card, and it's going to be Diana. I'm going to unsuspend, draw, promote, start of main off of my Analog Youths. I'm going to place a card underneath my Garurumon, gain 3 memory, draw 3 cards. Debating here if I want to grab anything else. I am in a very good spot having 3 Analog Youths so early. I do go ahead and use one of the Analog Youths to put a card underneath the Garurumon, Digivolving the Garurumon for 2 cost into Vademon, and then I'll go ahead and Digivolve, trash 1, and then I'll raid into the Lunamon that's there, outing their board. I will then go Vademon into Machine Germon. Machine Germon's going to place Metal Gray on top source and then put a card face down as my bottom source. My opponent will hatch the Coronamon. My opponent is asking if I have, like, I just win next turn, and I tell them I currently don't have lethal represented in known sources. My opponent plays Cressamon for 7, preventing me from doing anything with it. I start of main under the Machine Germon that can't suspend, gain 2 memory, draw 2 cards, and then I'm debating on what I want to use my third one for. I choose not to. Vademon's effect when attacking, I will bounce their Sayo to hand by trashing my face down source, jamming for 1 check. Or actually, I believe I was raiding in. They're going to give me minus DP and they're going to attempt to delete me. I will fragment here, and then I will fragment a second time. I'll Elecmon in the back. I'll Digivolve. Training, rather. And then Vademon will go into Metal Tyrannomon, or Metal Mamemon in my trash. We'll grab the Biomon. They will strip a source, and then I'll gain for memory. I'm just like printing so much memory here that it is really hard for my opponent to keep up, considering that I did put them a turn behind on Fira. I go ahead and Digivolve all the way up to a Metal Momemon in the back. I do have an Analog Man. I have 2 Machine Dramons. This is when they ask if I have the Mega Dramon, and I show them I don't have it in trash. And to let you guys know, I don't even have it in hand currently. My opponent will go ahead and play out Eiko and Sayo. I will go ahead and do all my analog uses individually because I'm at 8 cards exactly, so I do have to do them all individually if I want the card draw, which I do because I'm really, really looking for that Mega Dramon. I attack with Machine Dramon for 2 checks. I attack with that Machine Dramon. I did draw the Mega Dramon, and then that is game. We end up taking the 3rd set of the day. And unfortunately, the last set of the day, the person that I lost to in round 2 was one of 3 undefeateds. Table 1, he was at table 2, he was down paired, and unfortunately ended in a draw. If he had won, we would have played one more round, but since he did not, we are ending our record there. We end 3-0. Because of that, we get 4th place, which is pretty good. The only people I am behind are 1st place, which my very good friend Craig, who ended up winning the whole event on Royal Knights. We lost to our Royal Knights opponent. And then I believe there is one other person. I just can't remember exactly who had a better record than us. But overall, 4th place is really good. And I really have to be proud of the work that I did to get here. Overall, I did as much as I possibly could with what I was given. And over the course of 5 months and roughly, $500-ish, give or take, I built Machine Dramon. And not just like an okay version. Like I built full on Machine Dramon. The only thing I was really looking for at this point were to finish out play sets of cards like the Analog Youth. And I was looking for commons that I just forgot to double check that I had a full play set of before I opened my packs for this episode. So with that being said, we ended up, like I said, 4th place. And if there's a photo, I'll go ahead and throw it up here now. I am so incredibly happy with what I was able to do here, what we were able to do here. And I'm so happy to kind of be done with the series. I really enjoyed being able to make it, really enjoyed being able to do it. But as life gets busier, I only have so much time to play Digimon. And so having to play my sealed only deck every week was kind of a bummer every time I got a chance to play. So with that being said, I want to thank, if you've been here since the first episode, I really want to say thank you so much for watching all this time. It's meant truly a lot. What I thought was going to be a video series that I get like 20 or 30 views on, I'm consistently getting 100 views, which doesn't mean a lot to some people, but means a lot to me. Having 100 views on almost every video that I've put out on the series and having over 100 subscribers for the lack of marketing that I end up doing here just means a lot. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much. Moving forward, I'm not sure what kind of video series I want to make. I kind of just want to take a style of video and just like make deck profiles, take them to locals and see how they do and talk about them. If there's anything else that you guys would like to see, please leave it in the comments down below. I'm gonna still probably shoot for one video every other week-ish, maybe every week if I'm able to get into a pretty good rhythm of it. So definitely let me know. I just don't want to be the guy at locals who's like, hey, are you cool with me recording every single match every single week? I'm probably only going to record maybe one, like I will probably record each set at my locals when I do record, but I might only put in one game in each video, or like one game from each set in the video. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments what kind of videos you guys want to see. Thank you guys again so much. Like I thank the people who've been here since the beginning, but this is your first video. First of all, kudos to you. Congrats for finding me here, but thank you as well for watching this video and seeing what I've been able to do in a little bit over 5 months. Would I recommend sealed only? No, not unless you have a disposable income to spend. I spent $500 on essentially a full Machine Dramon deck and some other singles that I probably could have got for about half of the price. Did I open 2 alt arts and an SP? Or 2 alt art machines and an SP? Yes, I did. Does that pay for the series? About halfway. But realistically, if you're just wanting to play the game, don't worry about rarities. Just buy the base rarity of each card, and usually you can get a deck that's pretty affordable. My deck that I was playing today, you can probably build for a little bit over $100. And again, I got incredibly lucky to open 4 Machine Dramons. I really recommend, if you have a local game store that sells singles, buy from them. If you don't, TCG Player is there as well. And if neither of those are an option, you want to open packs, just remember, opening packs are for fun. You never open packs to, in my opinion, pack openings should not be for making a ton of money or like getting every card that you need. Pack openings are for fun. And if you have a wide variety of decks that you want to build, right? My philosophy lately has just been opening packs and then getting the supers that I want and offering trade for everybody else, as a trading card game should. So, all right, I've said it a couple of times, but I'm gonna say it again. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure you leave a like, leave a comment about whatever you want today. Subscribe if you want to see what I have planned for the future. And until next time, take it easy. See ya.